Hello and welcome to Michael and Ivanka's Grand Podcast, a weekly chat between two friends where we crystallise our ideas and thoughts about things and figure out what we think and help each other do the same, and maybe you, and also try and keep thinking about stuff that no one really wants to think about because it's too hard. My name's Michael Forrest.
And I'm Ivanka Majic.
And that intro had similarities with the previous week's intro.
It did.
It's only taken 140 whatever episodes to get there. Maybe we almost have crystallised what the podcast's about. What are we talking about this week?
Time.
Time? I always do that.
Something that you measure in great detail all the time and constantly monitor.
I do sit with a ticking clock in my peripheral vision at all times. It's very hard to speak without constantly using the word time, I'm discovering.
Especially today. Yes.
Well, it's a high-minded concept. Time is very important to some things. In the scientific sense, it's very useful. But in the intuitive sense, it's not very intuitive.
No. It goes, yeah, actually, no, it's not. I got this list of, this is not the bit where we talk about this, but you've reminded me, I got this list of things that the child is supposed to be on top of by the time she starts school.
I see.
And it's kind of like things it would be nice if they can do. It's understand the difference between today, yesterday and tomorrow.
Right.
And the fact that there's a morning period and an afternoon period. That is as much as they are expecting a 7-year-old to understand.
I see. And then you came at this via the long now?
The long now. So this idea that you consider, somebody else brought this to my attention, but that you would consider time not in periods that we do at the moment, like years, months, days, centuries, but in 10,000 as a period of 10,000 years, which is, I don't know.
Hard to think about.
It's a thought exercise.
It's the length of human civilization in its current form. About 13,000 years.
So you say. but what about God? No.
Oh yeah, it's only like 3,000 or something. Sorry. So we're just gonna fill some time talking about time. So why don't you come and join us in our podcast? Ivanka Majic, how's it going?
I am slightly hyperactive today. Feeling very. I woke up at 6. I've always woken up at 6, and then during COVID period, I've drifted and been getting up at 7.
This is an outrage.
Outrageous lying.
No self.
Nick said to me the other day, he goes, I don't think lions suit you. Why? I said, you always look very perplexed when you wake up. It's like the feeling of having had enough sleep. Anyway, today I woke up at 6. I got up, I went downstairs, we had a coffee, we talked about the day, I walked the dog. I did all that by 7.
Well, good.
So I also feel like my voice is a bit high pitched today because of the sort of general.
It's not coming across too much.
Exciting. How are you, Michael? I could talk more.
That's okay. Let's keep it short. Let's save time. I'm well. I got up at 5:30 yesterday morning thinking it was going to be a productive day, and then it was a write-off. So this morning I did manage to get up early, and I've had a good morning. But so this week's news seems like Donegood is... I put it up on producthunt.com. And that seems to be bringing in a few sign-ups. I had a few overnight. I'm letting some of them queue for a bit longer because it seems like they do use the invite a friend queue jumping thing, even if it's only 5 people in the queue. And I'd been just confirming everyone immediately. And then I thought, I should just let them stew for a couple of hours at least. So that's, I don't know, it's better than nothing. Certainly a long way from a paying customer so far, I think. And I think I should add in a invite friends to get a free list if they sign up.
What do you get if you pay?
If you pay, you get more lists, you get all this kind of advanced organising your time stuff that you don't get with the one list.
And out of curiosity, the account you've given me, is that's
You've
just
got the free one for now.
No, that's cool, because
Yeah.
I was trying to work out, because I don't, but it doesn't, it's not reminding me of the benefits. You know, if you want to do this, then give me some money.
Yeah. Well, there is a thing in the bottom right. If you click on that, there's add more projects, and then if you are adding a thing, then if you add a list, it will kind of pop up with the thing.
Yeah,
but I guess it's not trying to bully you into paying for anything.
I think a little bit of it doesn't have to bully. It could just gently go.
Yeah, I thought that's what I was doing, but I guess
I think you're too subtle.
Too subtle.
Too
subtle. I mean,
far too subtle.
But the other news this week was I woke up on Monday morning and someone had bought my Moog guitar for quite a lot of money. So that was exciting.
So you're rich.
Basically, it's the first musical instrument I've ever sold for more than I paid for it. And I've sold it for nearly twice as much as I paid for it, because it's just one of those. It's like serial number 91. I bought it new, but now they don't make them anymore. So I think if you want one, and the minimum price was a lot, so I put that up. I mean, you can look it up. I'm not going to say numbers, but it's. I was sort of hoping. I've had it up there for months, and I was just hoping that someone would just find it. Because I sort of posted it on the Reddit guitars thing, and guitarists just don't understand the point of it, because it's a magic guitar that it puts energy back in its own strings and sort of makes them vibrate, and you can get this infinite sustain effect, and guitarists are just just use an EBO. What is it, a synthesizer? I gave up trying to convince them. But yeah, it was nice. So shipped that off yesterday, but I've spent all week trying to because I've hit this threshold on reverb.com of my sales, verifying my identity bank statement thing has just been failing over and over again. So I'm sort of I want my money. But if that comes through, I'm going to be, I'm actually saving.
Are you
at the
moving
moment.
to your enormous flat?
No, but I have to say, the first target I set, which was it was feeling oppressive as a 5-year target. I'm actually 10-12% towards it already, after just kind of being mindful of not just spazzing money all the time for 3 or 4 months. So it's okay, maybe this isn't going to be so difficult.
I think I will. When we were saving up to go on that motorcycle trip, I found it so much easier to not spend money. I think just having an idea, saving, not so inspiring. Saving for something, much more inspiring.
Yeah,
much more motivating.
Why? Yeah, and I've sort of set myself. I've said, I'm allowed to spend 10% of whatever is in my savings account on a holiday or something, but not more than 10% of what's in there, because it's supposed to also be for fun things sometimes. But we could almost do something quite nice if holidays were possible. In these
if
times,
holidays existed,
maybe we'll just go and stay in Rome for a couple of nights when we're back in Italy, if we can go back. It sounds like it's all going to get locked. We're supposed to be going over Christmas, but it's all getting locked down. But anyway, so that's at the very least, it would buy me several months of not having to work. It's more time to get these things. But I'm starting to feel a lot more pragmatic about what makes good business sense, as I sort of have hammered away at my things for a while. And I had fun this week adding stuff to my Shoot app and adding a new widget to Good Habits, and it's oh, that's cool. And I think I'll get as much traction with these small little additions to apps as I would have with this whole as I do with an entire very fully featured app, in terms of attention. So I think it's all gonna. I think I'm getting that. I'll get the hang of it soon. So I'm feeling good. Feeling good.
Nice one.
Time to talk about time for a period of time. What is the time? It's 10:22. Not
11,
11:22 as you seem to think. Well, it is for you.
It is 11:22.
Well, cognitive dissonance 1. Ivanka, it's 11:22. Me, it's 10:22. How is this even possible? It's probably a conspiracy.
Probably is. I have to say that I've never been very good at time zones.
You need a little world clock on your widgets.
Yeah, I mean, this one is only an hour. This is the first time I've totally messed up. But but things like planning meetings with people in Australia, or it's like, what?
When someone wants to arrange that meeting over email, it's like, no, I want to click in Google Calendar, invite you in there, and then I know there's no confusion with time zones. Like, don't make me do this. This is a job for a machine.
It is. It totally is, because it's made up. It's not a human concept, I don't think. Oh dear. Trying to explain to child time is quite fascinating, because it's like she vaguely now can tell the time.
Right.
Well, not really. But when you say to her in 5 minutes, in an hour, in 50 hours, there's just a very one of my friends gave me the tip to talk in episodes of a TV show.
Right.
So for example, that's about that's 2 Peppa Pigs or whatever, but I don't know how long Peppa Pig is, so it's not much use to me.
Communication gap there that needs to be filled with horrible TV.
But yes, the 2 things have been making me think about time this week. One is using Donegood app.
Okay.
And the fact that I have been using it, though I'm not sure if I've put all appropriate tasks in, but that's kind of by the by. So a lot of them I have to do offline. There is an offline element. It's just a reminder, you still haven't been to the post office to post that thing.
You can leave it running while you go to the post office to post the thing.
I could.
That's what I do.
I may do that later.
Yeah.
Do you do that?
Yeah. If I've got to post it, I mean, it's like this app is how I got into the habit of selling stuff, of actually finally getting around to listing my musical instruments and then making time and figuring out how to post things, and then got my preferred status, and it's all paid off. Anyway, so, I've made thousands of pounds this year just by getting around to listing my stuff on reverb.com. Imagine that.
So yes, I've been using it to chip away as well at tasks, because there's been a couple of admin tasks that cannot be sort of like real long burns.
Yeah.
But it does. I think it helps make it clear how much you can get done in half an hour.
Yeah, I think so. There's something about timing loads of little annoying tasks and seeing it sort of turn into half an hour of productivity and going, well, that was good. I made some strides, and it wasn't a waste of time.
And also it's that sort of, I often will go, well, I've only got 20 minutes, no point starting it now because I've got that. Actually you can get 20 minutes is useful, 15 minutes is useful. But then it does give me this bit of a sense of franticness. Yeah. It's like, right, ready, steady, make this 15 minutes productive.
Anxiety-inducing countdown. But I think you said like that, being able to put a bookmark in something that is going to take longer is I think really useful.
Quite useful, yeah.
We talk about wasting time and like not knowing how much time we've got for anything. I certainly find like working for myself, and then like there's this weird thing of like when my money's not running out, I've sort of, my time sort of like opens up in front of me, and it's very easy to sort of just
kick
start
back,
like going down rabbit holes and enjoying myself, and like, let's add this feature, this would be quite good, and just not like putting too much pressure on myself, because that money thing isn't like banging down my door. But as soon as you like look at your bank and it's like, oh God, and suddenly like you're like, I cannot afford to waste any time. I've just got to get this and just see if it works. And the amount of time you perceive you have left, and time is money, it completely changes your behaviour. Yeah. In terms of like any work, like if there's a deadline looming, you procrastinate up until the last day, and then you finally get to it.
Absolutely. And then panic, or just do it. Yeah, I mean, I confess this. So I've a friend of mine's writing a book, and she sent me a chapter to read, which I felt quite made me feel I was like, oh, look at me, I'm being asked to read a chapter. But then and then I was like, so I really didn't read it till the evening before I was due to talk to her about it. And it probably retrospectively it would have been nice to read it a couple of times, or maybe even 3, just but I like to think I gave her useful feedback. But that's where this long time thing came from, the long now.
Yeah.
And I do think it's interesting. I've never worked on a project where we think about, for example, how we sometimes talk about how something might be decommissioned, but like with your Donegood app, what do we do? We're thinking about using a thing, adding to it. We're not thinking about retiring it.
No.
You know what I mean? No. But why? What's the? And maybe an app
live forever. These things live forever, except they don't. Like the environment changes and then it stops working. Is how software usually ends up working.
That's true. Does anyone go around deleting all the dead apps?
Well, I mean, beyond Apple expired all the ones that weren't 64-bit anymore, that didn't support 64-bit. But that's that was it was just not going to work, so they just all got pulled from the App Store. Yeah, they do. Well, it's kind of it's a different philosophy. It's like Microsoft's philosophy is always never let anything die and support every legacy horrible system that's been commissioned and someone's paid a lot of money to some consultancy to build some little internal enterprise web platform that only supports Internet Explorer 3. And we've got to keep it alive forever. And Apple have always been completely the opposite. It's no, we're taking away all your stuff, all the old legacy stuff. We're only going to have the newest stuff. No, you can't have headphone sockets anymore because that's too old now. No, you've got to keep rebuilding all of your software for every year, every time a new thing comes out. So it's you which leads, I think, I don't know, they lead to different problems. If you do sort of delete all the old stuff, it kind of keeps everything fresher, but it sort of can limit the depth that anything can get to.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. I can see that. I mean, I don't know how much the long now or thinking about things in a 10,000 year span. I don't know if I can conceptualize 10,000 years in my head. I think it's impossible. It's too far. It's too big.
And when I've always had this idea of the sort of acceleration and of progress and the singularity leading to this exponential change that means that as the further we get on, the harder it is to picture what it will be like in the future. But I remember this is Michael and Ivanka's repetition podcast at this point probably. No, I remember my dad telling me in a few million years there'll be an alien wouldn't even be able to tell we ever existed, and I'm well, that doesn't sound right. There'd be remnants, wouldn't there? Fossilized buildings, or I don't know. Surely there'd be stuff stuff we've made that doesn't, decompose. I mean, so thinking in terms of I think millions or a billion years or something. He was there'll be. You won't even know. I'm well, that doesn't sound right.
Yeah. What about me?
But it is completely out of our ability to sort of picture it at all, and that's why the only way to think about these timescales is to come up with measurements like a clock, a 10,000 year clock that you can go, okay, that's. I saw something about the distance of some chip etching process. The scale of it is the length a human hair grows per second or something. So that's how you can know how small this thing is.
Wow.
You have to come up with these metaphors to sort of think about it. I saw a YouTube video on this, talking about how we always, in the UK, we always seem to insist on measuring big things in terms of the number of buses it is, or it's football fields, or and often the press will make this mistake of giving you an analogy to sort of picture something that is also an unintuitive thing, so it doesn't help you understand the scale of it at all because you've got no reference point. So there's that. All you can do really to think about these timescales is put it in terms of intuitive reference points and like hope for the best.
Peppa Pig episodes.
Yeah, Peppa Pig episodes. That's how we operate. I thought, like, let's have a look at this, The Secret, that everyone's always talking. I just want to know what it says in there. And one of the things it says in there is time is an illusion. So don't worry about like how long something's going to take. Just you know that this is coming, this is going to happen, and just don't get too fixated on that sort of impatience of, well, it's not yet, but you know, you don't really, like, in human scales, in human lives, like time is such a subjective thing, and like in hindsight is so different to the experience of going through it, that like it's sort of quite good advice to just not get too fixated on, I want all of these things and it has to be in the next 2 weeks, otherwise I failed. It's almost saying like, okay, these things are coming, just don't, if you stick a timer on it, then our self-fulfilling prophecy can never be refuted. It's probably.
I think that's another weird way of telling you to put up with the shit you're in.
Well,
don't you think? Like,
I mean, some good advice of that book is like, oh, this woman is lonely and she just wants to find someone to spend her life with, but then that you sort of go to a flat and it's all like piles of things and there's no only space for one person to sleep, and so you change that, and then that sort of opens up the possibility of these things coming to you, and then you wait for them to come to you. So in that sense, I think that was quite good advice. But yeah, I certainly think like the accepting of problematic status quo isn't always. It's that thing, isn't it? Like faith obviously has some sort of psychological benefit. Otherwise, it wouldn't be such big business.
Yeah, but I don't see how the secret is. It sounds to me, like she says, having not read it, but having had it preached at me by a couple of people.
Have you had it preached? Including me?
No. I'll let you off, because I've also heard that whole make space for things. And I kind of agree, but I think I'm sure there's some science around it. It's like that sort of... it's like clearing your desk before you start a new project, or it's actually, I think there's some side benefit that comes from that whole clearing out the space for somebody else or whatever but I think these things like The Secret and stuff is just a new way of getting you to just, ask the universe for imagine, pick, though, yeah.
I mean, I think like in the absence of like a regular praying thing, like it's harder. You don't spend so much time actually picturing what you're after, and so then you don't know how to spot it when it comes. And if anything, like I've been sort of living. I always try and live like how do I expect to get this dream to come true if I haven't done all the things towards it? And the temptation, if you don't picture the outcome that you want, is that you just keep putting more effort into the outcome that you don't want, and how can you expect to kind of turn it into the other thing? I don't know if that's the secret, but certainly like we could pivot into a sort of conversation about patience here, and waiting for people and like waiting for things to happen, and that's quite a big source of anxiety, really, feeling impatient about things. But that's again to your secret thing, having an idea, like we said at the beginning, having an idea, like you've put a 5-year plan in place to save up money, and setting an expectation that is actually reasonable, if a little ambitious potentially, to set a time scale. Then you can remind yourself, okay, this month it's not the best month, but it's not all. This is not the be all and end all. We're working on something bigger. But just waiting for somebody to get back to you on something, or waiting to get paid is just I find that really like annoying. I'm having it this week with the thing, but like I remember when the Apple sales started coming in and I was seeing the numbers, I was like, it was blowing my mind, but then it was like so long before I actually have that money in my hand. And then it seemed to take forever. Like, but then you're just thinking, well, for this week, it's like, well, what's the difference? It's going to have a different number on one of my screens in one of my apps. But it does like psychologically kind of make you go, because sometimes it's like, well, it might still not happen, and they might screw me over on this like account verification thing and just keep the money. I don't know. Anything could happen. So like, there's that. Like, is that impatience or just like not? It's trust and faith and certainty, and like it's like with that time variable in these things, it's sometimes how do you train yourself to stay calm and just give it a bit?
I don't know. We have a policy of paying all freelancers on the day they invoice us, which
good policy.
I think it's like I think when you are a small business, especially, you're relying on that money to do something or do the next thing usually. So I think, and it's not my money. It's you've done the work, you get paid. But I think being impatient around being paid. I think that's a particular kind of. It's more to do with that certainty and uncertainty and the security attached to the money. Personally, for me, because until it's landed, like you say, 1,000 things can go wrong. I was like, and even though I personally have been dealing with reputable organisations that of course are going to pay, but you still like, I'm sure that money should have been here by now. Where is it? So check your bank account.
Trust thing, definitely. I had a weird, like yesterday, I had a sort of one of those like days of time being really annoying. And I think the sort of like keeping busy is a good way to kind of deal with that, like just kind of work on other things. And like the same way that like a broken heart like needs time to heal, like you just need to kind of throw yourself into something and let it kind of like process. But yesterday I kind of screwed it up because I got up too early, and then I was here. I had to be in the studio to wait for the sort of DHL delivery person to come and collect this thing. But I didn't have any like energy to do any work, and I was hungry and I couldn't go home to just go and sit on the couch and just like reset or whatever. So I was sort of like just kind of sat there just staring, waiting, just going, and just kind of realizing, well, this is not how I should spend my day. And eventually I was like, I should do something. I'll try and get that thing working. And I had a grumpy day, but as soon as I just threw myself into something, like before I knew it, like someone was knocking on the door saying, oh, there's someone looking for a pick. I was like, there we go. And instead of being this like, when's he coming? And it does happen, like, if you can't do anything in the time that's scheduled and the person's late or not responding, that's the worst thing someone can do. Yeah. That's the sort of flaky. But
I don't know what you're talking about.
Well, you thought I did that today.
Oh no, I didn't think you were being flaky. I thought something had happened.
Well, exactly. That's how much it would take for me to be 6 minutes late.
Yeah, I was like, how come Michael's not responding? It's no, Ivanka, you're an hour out. Sure, it's not being run down on the streets of London. Because obviously in my life, I always go to the worst possible scenarios. So, yeah.
No, I have great respect for time, I think. Maybe too much.
Well, Nick has a bit of a, if you're late twice to a meeting with Nick, the third time he won't arrange a meeting. Like, I'm not doing business with this person. It's not possible to do business with this person. They've made me wait twice.
Yeah, no.
I'm a little bit more relaxed on this subject.
I don't know why I think it's so. I think it's because there was a post on that website, that Product Hunt website. So I went to post my thing, and then at the top of the timeline thing, I don't know what this thing is, but it was like, how does the concept of your own mortality make you feel depressed or motivated? And I kind of saw it a couple of times. I was like, well, I'm going to respond to this. And I just said, like, I think I've been aware of my own mortality since I was a small child because my mother died. And I think the way that that's affected me has been, I do feel like every second is really important. So I do put a great emphasis on productivity. But I think the cost of that is sometimes there are things that aren't directly productive. That there's this sort of emotional element of it where if you feel like you're wasting time, even though there's no way to write or kind of design or do research or do something creative without having some slack. It just makes, because I'm so sort of obsessed with wringing every second clean of all of its value, I can I always have this sense that if I could just loosen that vice that time has over my perception, and let myself relax a bit more, I would unlock those things that it would all be a lot easier.
Yeah. But then I think if you're not aware of it, then you just don't. Why would you do anything? There's a balance somewhere in it.
There is.
I think Nick can drive me nuts because he's very much the wring every second of productivity out of every moment, which is why he has been so successful working on his own at home for such a long time, and that's great. But also that same approach cannot be applied to a Saturday. It's what are we going to do? I just sit down and shut up and wait. Because I can't, I'm not having productive relaxation time.
Well, sometimes I think I should be better at planning the off time. Because when I had my August off, I was like, right, I'm going to use my time tracker to kind of make sure I've got some things I want to do. And the first day I was like, right, I went to the hardware place and got some wood and made this drawer divider, which is amazing, by the way, still amazing.
I'm sure
I'll put some footage of it in the next break. Just having only the same size and shape of spoon and fork in each segment. It's just wonderful. But then as the time went on, I was like, well, I just obviously sacked it off. But I sort of sometimes a holiday, you do sort of want someone that is that sort of slightly anxious. We're going to kind of have an itinerary, because then when you finish the holiday, you're you have all these memories and you went water skiing.
Yeah, you did a million
not
things.
That anyone of us would do that, but which you just wouldn't get around to if you're just I'm just going to chill.
Sure, yeah, totally. 100%. We do have, without doubt. But I've got but things sometimes, especially if you're going to do something like gardening, it's like design. You've got to sit there for a minute or an hour and look at the garden and go, do you know what would be nice? Is if when you walk that way, you saw that. And it's those kind of but then what's becoming increasingly amusing, or some other word in our house, is that the child is turning into a bit of a mini-me. So she'll be sitting there as a 5-year-old. So what's the plan for today? Shall I get a pen and write a list? No. But yeah, we do have a negotiated list of things that we get out of the day.
Let's talk about time in the sort of physics sense. In the sort of purest sense of physics, time is entropy, an increase in entropy. That's sort of the fact that the universe has the direction of time is just the direction that things get messier. When you take away measuring and timescales, really all time is energy dissipating and things getting more and more chaotic. You can't take the milk out of the tea. It's much harder to kind of tidy up than it is to let things get messy. So, and that's just what time is. It's just it's going, and it will swallow, give it a few more billion years, everything will sort of reach this state of uniformity. And then life is this way of entropy, figuring out a way to speed up getting that energy out of the more difficult to reach places, like sort of ores buried in the ground, or more complex organisms that can like feed on, the ability to start kind of like processing all that stuff, and like life is a really effective way of doing that.
But I think that was part of my either what I'd read in this chapter or what was going on, is this idea that in our heads, like we're traveling down a path that is quite linear. That's our past and this is our future. Where actually all time ahead of us is a total jumble of possibilities. There's no like, and there's there is much more of a meander to it than you could ever possibly imagine or want to, maybe, I don't know. But there's this kind of and behind us is an equal mess of roads untravelled. Not necessarily that should be viewed with regret. Your milk in the tea doesn't quite work for me in the past time sense, but the sort of, like, I don't know, milk, grass in the cow.
Yeah. Well, this is like the thing is, like, like the time is the stuff that you cannot change, so that's why I'm so sort of like anti regret and like these sort of like, even like nostalgia. I can, although my phone has been showing me like old pictures on my home screen recently, and I've been going, oh yeah, I remember when I went to Japan. So there's probably something to just let a bit of nostalgia in, so that everything isn't just this like the anxieties of the present, which is, so when you talk about like the future is this complete jumble of possibilities, I sort of think about that in terms of that, like that's why we're kind of like, that's our experience of the present, is like, what's this, which one of these futures is it going to be, or is it going to be something else? I suppose that's that secret thing, is going like, well, let's try and like tame it and just try and like carve a path out, well, or any kind of planning, which is what happens while you're like, life doesn't follow it. But I think I see, when I look back, I think I've trained myself to more or less see, well, that's what happened. And I probably wouldn't change, even the stuff that was bad, I wouldn't change, because I learned from it. And I don't know that that's a natural way of looking at things. I think it takes some training of your brain to not think in terms of regrets and worries. Although that's another thing that happened to me when I had my holiday. Like, so much of my brain, as soon as I wasn't doing something, it was all like, think about this embarrassing moment. Think about this thing I wish had happened. Remember this thing that I wish hadn't happened. Remember this thing. Hey, remember when you did that? Hey, remember when you did... I'm like, God damn it. Like, I'd rather just be working, because all these thoughts are just waiting to come in. So, yeah, I don't like that feeling. And I don't know that it stops after a while. It's like, a couple of weeks went by, I'm like, is this just...
What?
Dwelling on the past, like
my on the subject of dwelling on the past, my brother found 2 tapes of my dad recording something.
Oh, wow.
A letter. He hasn't sent them to us yet, and I didn't dare. He's bought some gadget to take them off cassette to USB something. And Nick goes, "Why didn't you just play it on the tape recorder and then record it on his phone?" I was like, I'm not going to tell him. He's quite pleased that he's found a solution. And my sister and I were both like, and then he was talking about how weird it is that he took a while of listening to it before he recognised it as our father's voice, because it's been 25 years. But, like, there's this weird thing where that's been captured in a moment. Yeah. But we're all, so many things have happened to us. We're not the same people then, like...
Well, one of the craziest things about this sort of like digital, the phone, there's Generation Z or whatever, like is like everything is recorded now in a way that it just used to be lost. But I did say on the Are the Straights Okay Reddit thing yesterday, it was like heterosexual men will have a 10-year friendship and they won't have a single picture of themselves together. Like, I'm just like, I haven't got pictures of myself with any of my friends. Like, it's so weird. It's just a weird male trait, I think. We just don't think about. I'm not selfie time. It's like,
I don't know. Is that true? Is that because I'm terrible at that sort of. It's usually if I'm in a selfie with a female friend, it's because she's taking the photo.
Well, I'm not saying all hashtag not all women, hashtag not all men,
true,
but
all men.
like,
okay, fair enough. I'm just curious. I was just thinking about myself, and then I was thinking about Nick and my brother, but they're both posers.
Right.
But particularly Nick will like try and get in any photo he can, give it half a chance.
I think there's a way that people do it, but yeah, I've got too many of those like male habits that aren't that useful, I think.
Yeah. But yeah, I think time, regret, remembering, nostalgia, they're all the same sort of thing, really.
And really, what are we but our memories?
We are all these lots of little things that have happened to us, and that happened to our parents, and that happened to their, that's all we are.
Yeah.
Like, there's just all this mess behind us of tiny little things that made, my dad go one way and not the other way, and, leave a village, end up in Germany, where my mum happened to be going on a summer holiday to improve her. It's just like, but placing those memories in time can be quite freaky. So it's like, what was that? Was that 5 years ago? Was that 10 years ago? Was that? It's impossible to think about time without getting a little bit melancholy, maybe.
A bit of melancholy for the end there. Don't be melancholy, fans. Be Ivanka and Mike Ankely. What am I doing?
Don't know.
Is there a cherry? I don't know. We've wavered and wandered, and
we have.
But hey, what do you expect? It's a podcast. It's a ramble chat.
Have we crystallised anything this week? That's the
Do
big
you know
question.
What? We haven't. I don't think we've really crystallised.
No, we haven't crystallised a thing.
Never mind. Better not next week. Thanks for listening. If you like the podcast, go to grandpodcast.com. Where can people find you, Ivanka?
People can find me at Ivanka on Twitter.
You can find me at Michael Forrest on Twitter and other places. If you want to support the podcast and join our Slack channel, is it intimidating? Sometimes it's fun. Then that's a Patreon thing. If you want, you can do it. If you want to try Donegood, donegood.app. If you want to drop me an email as well, and maybe I can do something for you. Anything to
do you deal?
Anything to pitch? Promote?
No, I'd just like to remind people who are in Brighton, especially, to go to restaurantsbrighton.co.uk or brightonnaturalhealthcentre.org.uk.
And they're listed
That's
under
for everybody, actually.
Listed under our faces on the YouTube. The only I was going to just mention the Donegood feature as well. That last thing. One thing that I added for pro people is like the ability to create a time budget for a list. To kind of counteract that thing of like when you feel like you've got a lot of time, you just start meandering. It's to sort of bring back a bit of like a deadline pressure without it having to relate to your bank balance. Wow. So I'm innovating these things. It's something that I'm always because it's a tool for myself. I'm putting lots of little ideas into it that I think you will find that it is put together with love, if not always lack of bugs. I need to fix. Anyway, thanks for listening. See you next time.
Thank you for listening.
Bye.
Bye.